Generally, the economy does not affect your typical type car collector. He's usually not the type that's strapped for to make his next rent payment.
It became like hula hoops. The difference was a lot of us kept on using the hula hoops.
Motoring 91 is brought to you by Quaker State. Quaker State, one tough motor oil.
This week we are traveling down memory lane, and I bet this 1964 Oldsmobile 98 brings back a flood of memories for many people out there. But you know, when it comes to memories, who'll ever forget the very first car they owned? Well, for yours truly, this is it, the Volkswagen Beetle. Mine wasn't a convertible and it wasn't in such good shape, but boy, does this car bring back memories. Now, we're at a classic car auction. These events are held all across North America every year. And if you love cars and you love nostalgia, this is the place to be.
Walk, talk, smile, charm.
Basically, it's a collector car auction. We have over 300 cars on display here. They all are for sale. They all run across the auction block during the course of the weekend. The majority of the cars here are cars that the average person today could reflect back into their childhood days or their teen years, which would be 50s and 60s type cars. We do have some earlier 30s and 40s cars here, as well as 70s. A good percentage of them are muscle cars, which is a hot thing today. And of course, we have the exotics, classics, both European and domestic.
Your accountant will always tell you that buying a car is your worst investment. Does that hold true at an auction like this?
Well, I don't think so, because I would say in the last 5 years, automobiles have been a great investment. They've appreciated tremendously, collector cars I'm talking about. And still the big cars and the important cars are still a great investment, because they're like works of art on wheels.
Well, hi there.
Make it shine.
Oh, I intend to. Shining your car's like going fishing. Shinier the lure, the bigger the fish.
What do you hope to get for it today?
Well, I'm hoping this car goes up for sale tomorrow around 1 o'clock, 1:30 or so. I'm hoping to get somewhere around the $25,000 mark.
You gonna make money on this then?
Not really making money, but it's a necessity I have to do. I have to sell the car, my house, my furniture, everything. My barber chair, my pool table, all my toys gotta go.
$15,000 for those of you who know. $15,000 with about $15,000. $12,500. $15,000 with about $15,000. $15,000. 75. $15,000.
This car looks pretty unique. What are we looking at?
We're looking at a 1959 Borgward Isabella Coupe. It's a car that was manufactured through the 50s and into the 60s, West German. And it was one of the only small manufacturers that actually produced their own engines, gearboxes, hardware, etc. This particular one was the property of a Borgward dealer in California. It was brought up to Canada several years ago and restored here. It's never been very, very popular in North America just because of its scarcity. A lot of Europeans would know what they're looking at and appreciate it a lot more. And consequently, it'd be very nice to have some European buyers in the crowd. They'll be able to appreciate it more, and chances are if it gets bought by a European purchaser, it'll probably be leaving Canada and going overseas again.
The big question, what price are you looking for?
Well, it's appraised at $15,000 and we're looking for $12,750.
$37,000, He's walking, he's not talking. Wrong side of $40,000.
It's a 1948 Dodge Coupe. And the unique thing about this car is it's got 246 actual miles. So it's never physically been on the road before. And well, it was a Dodge dealer that bought this car new, and he was a collector of Dodge cars. And for 11 years in a row, he put a new car away and just never drove them. And unfortunately, he passed away in the late 50s, and the collection was sold off to a man in Arizona by the name of Tom Barrett. Stickers? Yeah, the car has, as you can see, it's absolutely brand new. It still has the shipping stickers on the windshield about your testing your alcohol levels. The jack in the trunk has never been out of the car. It's never been out of the box, as a matter of fact. The interior is absolutely brand new, as is the rest of the car.
How rare is it?
Well, a 48 Dodge Club Coupe isn't a really rare car, but it has to be the lowest mileage Dodge Club Coupe in the world. With 246 miles, I'm sure there isn't another one.
If somebody's coming here to find a $2,000 or $4,000 car, they're not going to find them here. These are cars where they've got excellent paint, engine, electrical work, tires, just the whole car is in very, very good condition overall. And they're not going to find a lot of rust and things like that at these shows, so therefore they're going to have to pay a little higher dollar. This is a collector car show.
They don't pay the dollar, they don't get the car.
That's right.
If you're looking to get a head start on your Christmas shopping, you might be interested in the recently unveiled Bentley Continental R. This latest Rolls-Royce comes equipped with a 6.7-liter V8 engine, anti-lock brakes, and driver's side airbag, all for just $295,000 before GST. And what would a Bentley be without a stereo? The Continental R comes with a compact disc player and 10 speakers for your dining and driving pleasure. So write that check and get in line. Only 3 will make it to Canada, and you can expect up to a year's wait for delivery.
Our test wagon featured Honda's new 4-speed automatic transmission. It offers both sport and normal modes. In the sport mode, each gear is held a little longer. This ensures the best use of the engine's additional power.
Test Drive with Graham Fletcher.
This week on Test Drive, we look at the 1991 Honda Accord. Now, as you can see, this is no ordinary Accord, it's the new wagon. Now, with the resurgence in popularity of this type of vehicle, we decided it was about time to have a look at the new kid on the block.
The new Honda Accord wagon features the same sophisticated 2.2-litre engine as the one we tested in the 1990 sedan. It still features 16 valves, 2 counter-rotating shafts, and plenty of torque. However, they've bumped the horsepower by 10 to 140. From a practical standpoint, the extra horses help offset the additional weight and cargo capacity very nicely. Both on the skid pad and on the road, the engine's flexibility ensured prompt throttle response. Our test wagon featured Honda's new 4-speed automatic transmission. It offers both sport and normal modes. In the sport mode, each gear is held a little longer. This ensures the best use of the engine's additional power. One of the things that irked me in driving this car was the upshift quality the transmission offers. It's rather abrupt, to say the least, and if you're at about a half to a third throttle, it seems to be accentuated, and it makes no difference whether you're in sport or normal mode. It wasn't, to be quite frank, what I was expecting of a Honda automatic. I was rather disappointed. The last time I tested the Accord, I knocked Honda for not offering ABS. I still say they should do themselves a favour. Offer their exceptionally good anti-lock brake system on all models rather than just the EXR sedan. While the wagon turns in some very impressive stopping distances, it lacked the overall feel and security of a car with an anti-lock brake system. In the pylon test, the Accord put on a terrific showing. There was virtually no body roll and only a minimal amount of understeer. The secret to this success is the fully independent double wishbone suspension with front and rear sway bars and gas shocks. On the road, though, I found the whole setup rather firm. This, combined with the church pew-like seats, made things a little hard on the old posterior. Sacrificing some of the handling characteristics would have made the going a lot easier. From a driving perspective, the Accord is set up to perfection. The dash contains all the right analog gauges, and everything that needs to be used can be reached. This holds true from the power window controls through the radio to the hub-mounted cruise control. The Wagon format displayed little of the boombox effect you find in some wagons. The open plan layout did not amplify the road noise, and there was no nasty rattles evident from the rear seats or from the privacy cover. On the subject of the rear seats, they offer reasonable room, and the 60-40 split adds to the versatility of the wagon. All in all, the rear environment is well laid out despite my pet peeve. You're looking at my pet peeve with the Honda Accord wagon, and it's to do with the intrusion of the shock towers into the usable cargo space. In fact, they intrude so much that they limit the width to a point where you may even find it'll turn off a lot of traditional wagon buyers. Now for the final rundown on the 1991 Honda Accord, let's go to the scoreboard. Thanks to the 140 horses on tap, the wagon reaches 100 kilometers an hour in just over 9 seconds. This number of horses, combined with plenty of torque, gives the Accord wagon a very crisp response throughout its entire operating range. From a handling perspective, the wagon is extremely good. As with the Passat, the Accord tracked a line through the pylons that many supposed sports cars would certainly envy. If you opt for the wagon, you can forget anti-lock brakes because they aren't offered. Having said that, the disc drum setup performed very well, averaging just 115 feet from 80k. The stops were straight and the pedal very easy to modulate. I found the Accord somewhat less than comfortable. The seats are far too hard and the suspension too stiff. The overall effect leaves a little to be desired. We recorded a highly commendable 28 miles per gallon or 10 litres per 100 kilometres. This for a large 4-cylinder engine is very good, especially in a wagon. I'm sure the new Accord wagon will sell very well, if only because it bears the Honda nameplate. My only reservation is that the format may be a little too late, because the competition is certainly larger and a lot more affordable.
You're looking at a 19 to 35 packet, only about 20 of these automobiles in the world today. Under the hood, 475 cubic inches, 200 horsepower. And I have a story for you. Apparently, the second owner of this car dropped by this morning. He bought this car in 1953 for $500, sold it a few months later for $600 and thought he made a killing. Today, if it was for sale, they'd be asking $300,000. 10 years from now, over $1 million. So there you go. All right, we're going to leave the auction now and join our favorite man under the hood, Bill Gardner. And apparently Bill has found some time this past few weeks to catch up on his reading.
You know, part of the reason for buying a car that's simply laid out, like for example this Stellar, would be so that you could do some of your own maintenance and adjustments. You don't want to have to pay a guy like me $40 or $50 to do simple tasks. And many of these cars are laid out very simply today. You'd be surprised. Take for example the clutch adjustment on this car. Right up here where you can reach it, very easy to see. You can see that this little nut here threads up and down the clutch cable and increases or decreases the clutch play as required. It's very easy to do and anybody could handle this operation if you just had a shop manual, and that's our topic today. If you're interested in doing some of these repairs, you're going to have to get yourself some good information. A good place to start is a bookstore. You'll find a number of good shop manuals there. Some of the basic ones, particular, for example, in this case to a Buick Century. We've got a number of years models covered. We've got a lot of specifications and illustrations, as you can see. We've also got some general information hidden in here that you could cross over to a number of other cars. Of course, everybody gets an owner's manual with their new car. But I'm going to suggest to you today that when you buy a new car, or even a used one for that matter, that you purchase a factory shop manual particular to that car only. Keep it with the car and in the car for its entire life, and pass it on to any future owners. It's a valuable source of research material. And even if you don't want to do that job yourself, it makes it much easier to discuss it with somebody like myself, the nature of that repair, easier to price things and order parts with one of these manuals. I'm not at all offended by any owner that brings in one of these when he wants to discuss a repair. And I'm going to suggest to you mechanics, if you don't have one and you need one for a customer's car, think of it as another part. Order the one for the guy's car, include it in the price of the repair if it's necessary to make a proper repair. Till next week, I'm Bill Gardner for Motoring 91.
There are guys that like going around here that just like it because it looks like car racing. They go around, they imagine themselves as being Emerson Fittipaldi. There are other guys who could not care less what the car looks like as long as it goes fast. For me, it's a combination.
At this auction, you could find anything from a 1937 Rolls Royce to a fire truck. This is a 1945 Fargo pumper. Let me see where it's from. The Camp Walden Fire Department in Palmer Rapids, Ontario. You even get a coat, helmet, boots, and check out this high-tech firefighting equipment. Well, I doubt there'll be any fire departments in the market for this particular truck, but I'm sure it'll make a toy for somebody. And speaking of toys, Steve Grant has a story about some men who also have some toys, and while they may be as much fun as some of the toys we find here, they're certainly not as expensive.
Long before Nintendo and remote control everything, a slot car set was a popular fixture in rec rooms everywhere. Well, nostalgia is no longer limited to the clothes or the type of music we listen to. Slot cars are being rediscovered, and it's the same people who found them in the first place.
Just watch and I'll show you how.
There's always been racing available, but it's been in basements, it's been club racing, it hasn't been commercial racing. The commercial enterprise in Canada, and to a great extent in the United States, faded right out. It became a mass appeal. It became like hula hoops. The difference was a lot of us kept on using the hula hoops.
Well, yeah, I guess in the 60s I got pretty involved in it, and I enjoyed it, and then it seemed to kind of dry up. And just before Christmas, I was driving by and I noticed the place and decided to come in and take a look. And that's basically how I got involved again after 20 years.
Well, in many ways, it's like a cult. You get the same people that have been doing this for 30 years. It's not abnormal to get an age difference of 10-year-old kids to 60-year-old adults. It's a type of hobby that lasts a lifetime.
In full-scale racing, your pit crew can mean the difference between winning and losing. While in slot car racing, the marshal becomes invaluable, because even though these cars go a lot faster than they used to go, and they certainly handle a lot better, no one has yet to be able to figure out how to keep these cars in the slot for the entire race.
Actually, there is quite a bit of skill because you have to drive the car. You know, down the straightaways you can go full out, but you know, you have to drive it around the corners basically, and you know, different cars handle different ways. A lot of the guys modify them up or scratch build them. They even take the kit cars and you know, bend the chassis certain ways or solder new parts on and that to make them, you know, go quicker, make them lighter.
Skill aside, slot car racing has never received the respect or attention its participants feel it deserves. Model train collectors, for example, are everywhere, and they're always eager to show off their collections.
One of the aspects to model trains is the model. They look like little trains. The scenery looks like little villages. The hills look like little hills with trees. Well, this does not look like a raceway. It does not look like Mosport. It does not look like Indianapolis. It looks like what it is, a slot car raceway. And this aspect of it disturbs modelers. Now they're going back to cars that look like cars, and you can see the result. And it's worked everywhere in the world.
I find it relaxing more than anything. It's, you know, a chance to get away and do something that's like a hobby. And I've always enjoyed cars. I watch car racing and that. And, you know, it's a way to get involved, I guess, in car racing without getting a big car and spending the big money.
Different strokes for different folks. There are guys that like going around here who just like it because it looks like car racing. They go around, they imagine themselves as being Emerson Fittipaldi. There are other guys who could not care less what the car looks like as long as it goes fast. For me, it's a combination. It's many different things. It's not just one.
Missed the 60s, huh?
Missed the 60s, apparently. Yeah, we all missed the 60s.
Yeah, we all missed the 60s. Yeah, we were slot car racing.
Do you long for the security of curb feelers? Are you on a first-name basis with the local auto body man? Or is it just a depth perception problem? Garage Alert takes the bump out of bumper. Batteries aren't necessary. The ultra-sophisticated metallic sensor works on contact to prevent sudden impact. There's just two things to remember. Green is go and red is stop. A garage light might be worthwhile, too.
I'm on my way to Hernia City, next on Kenzie's Corner.
Kenzie's Corner with Jim Kenzie.
You know, they call these things space saver tires, but I don't get it. I mean, the only time having a little tire like this is of any advantage is if your trunk is so full that a real tire wouldn't fit and you also have a flat. But if those two things both happen to you, where do you put the flat tire? It won't fit in the space that this one came from. So what are you going to do? Put it on your mother-in-law's lap? And another thing, speaking of changing tires, how come the car companies always give you these dumb little wrenches about the size of a dinner fork? They have a lousy fit on the lug nut in the first place, and then when you try and take them off, you find some lunatic has reefed them on with a nuclear-powered air gun. This is particularly dangerous because it could leave you stranded at the side of the road if you don't have a big enough wrench to undo those nuts. And what's more, if you've got aluminum road wheels like this car has, over-tightening these lug nuts can permanently damage them, and they're expensive pieces. So next time you see your mechanic working on your wheels, let him use the air wrench to just snug them up gently, but make sure he uses a proper torque wrench to tighten them up properly. I'm Jim Kenzie.
Well, I hate to say this, and I know you have never heard anybody say this before, but boy, they sure don't make them like they used to. I mean, look at these fins. Love them or hate them, you knew this was a Cadillac. In fact, this is a 1958 60 Special. Well, that is it. We're all out of time for this week, but make sure you join us next time for more stories on cars and the people who drive them.
Motoring 91 is brought to you by Quaker State. Quaker State, one tough motor oil.